Chef, your life.
Great. Welcome everyone. Welcome to the research seminar series. That's a series of 11 research-oriented sessions where there is everything about research organized by Vatel Hotel and Tourism Business School. You can already see on the overview that we have A to Z of research starting from the very first day, wherein we'll be covering topic formulation of a research topic and research questions, and the second will be drafting a research synopsis. The first session will be by Dr. Arvind Kumar Saraswati, and the second will be by Dr. Nas. Dr. Arvind Kumar Saraswati is affiliated with Banarsi Das Hotel Management and Catering Technology, IP University. Professor is also the joint editor of the reputed journal, Indian Journal of Applied Hospitality and Tourism Research. He is also the member of editorial boards of various national and international journals. He has done his doctorate from Aligarh Muslim University in the domain of relationship marketing. He is the UGC NET qualified personnel in tourism administration, PGDAB in marketing management, Masters in tourism management and hospitality and hotel administration graduate from. He has a rich experience of about 15 years of academia and industry, and is the recipient of Aspiring Researcher Welcome Award 2016 and Young Teacher Welcome Award for 2015 by Indian Hospitality Congress. He has also represented India, been a jury member at Art and TUR 9th and 10th International Tourism Film Festival in 2016 and 17. In his career, he has presented many research papers in various reputed national and international conferences. He has authored one textbook, edited 5 books, contributed many chapters, and published 8 research papers. On behalf of Vatel Hotel and Tourism Business School, Sushant University, we welcome you, sir. This seminar, being the very first one of the research seminar series, it's just like a foundation rather than orientation the world of research, and it is believed that choosing the right research topic and framing right research questions, whoever has done it probably has done half of the research. So sir, we have members of the faculty from different institutions. I can see some research enthusiasts, our UG and PG students, the academic institutions, scholars also with us today. Please throw some light on the importance of research topic and key considerations involved in the same. Over to you, sir, please.
Thank you so much, Dr. Saurabh, for a lovely introduction, and thank you, Sushant University, for inviting me as a speaker for the first topic of this seminar, that's formulation of research topic and research questions. I've been told that many of the students are also joined in this seminar, so I'll try to keep the things simpler, practical, without any bookish knowledge and language. Right? May I request Dr. Saurabh, can you please start sharing my slides?
Yes.
Thank you so much. All right, good afternoon, everyone who are present in this seminar. Today we're going to discuss about formulation of research topic. Next slide, please. Yeah, whenever it's about doing research, the big questions that lies in our mind is what to research. And I'm sure that all of you have joined in this seminar must be having some kind of topic in their mind on which they intend to research upon. Right? The topic might be of their interest, of their passion, and it's perfectly fine to conduct research in the area of your interest. But I'm also a firm believer that many of you must be having an idea that I want to prove this thing through my research. If anyone of you is thinking that way, that you're gonna prove something after conducting this research, that's the biggest mistake that we are doing. problem, and we have to present the true reality of that phenomenon subject, right? So here, whenever you want to start your research, you can pick any area of your interest, but don't be sentimental of proving anything, because we, as a researcher, our work is simply to present the true reality to the audience, to the users, to the other researcher, to the industry, or I must say to the world. Maybe to the next slide, please. Yeah. If you talk about research journey, right, the entire research journey is just uh, about what is known and what is unknown. Because in the academic world or research world, like many things has been researched and many of the information has already been known. But from where we come to know that what is known? For that, you have to do a preliminary literature review, because that will tell us that what is known, that what has already been researched so far, and what are the future gaps lies. Right? So, a work of a researcher is to start from the known, identify the unknown, and make it known to the world. So here, what is known is totally dependent upon, right, of the literature that we study. So whenever any topic comes to your mind, the first thing we must do is we start doing some kind of background research. And that background will be generated from the past researches, from the literature, from the document sources, which is available so far in the context or in the area in which you intend to do some kind of research. And when we review these kind of literature, we reach at the point where we realize that sufficient work has been done in this field, but there is something which is not known. And this not known information, we call it a research gap. And this research gaps give us an opportunity to devise our research questions, research topic, because the thing which is already known in the market, already known in the research world, there is no point doing, there's no point researching the same thing again, because that will not get acceptability, because your time, your efforts will go waste over there. Right? So firstly, the first step after understanding, after deciding a broad area of your study, right, please do a background research on the broad area so that we can ascertain what is known so far in that area and what are things which are still needs to be researched upon. And the literature review will become the background to understand what is known, and the gap that arises, that means the things which are still not known, that will become the basis for deciding what your research topic and research question would be. Next slide, please. Yes. So depending upon the study, that what is known in the area of your research and what is unknown in which you wish to conduct a research, that will help you understand to reach upon the research gap. That's what I'm saying. The second step here is do the preliminary research. We call it background study, right? To understand or to establish what is known in the area of research and what is still need to be researched upon, that's unknown, right? So that we can reach upon the research gaps. And believe me, the gaps identified is the way to research topic and research questions. What happened? Many of the young researchers or the researchers at early stage, they did very preliminary research over here, and they do extensive literature review at later stage. Right? But if that extensive literature review has been done at this stage, the things will be much more easier for you, right? So that you will be able to devise the true gaps that lies in the field, in the area of your research. Because my time, what happens, having just a brief review of your topic, right? We decide upon that topic and formulate a research question. And later on, when we do the extensive literature review, that time we realize that the work was already done by someone, or the research question that you have identified in the preliminary stage, right? That is not solving the purpose after doing the that extensive literature review. So that's my personal opinion that device devote some time at this stage to a good literature review, though it's written preliminary research, right? But please do an extensive literature review at this stage so that the real gaps are identified at this stage. Because many of the university, as far as I know, right, they won't allow you to change the topic, and real uh, research questions and research gap it arises, it can be devised only after having a good, a sound literature, right? So instead of doing that literature later on, once your topic is being finalized, right, why not to do it before, right? At least we have to do literature to an extent where we'll be able to address the right gaps, right research gap, the thing which are unknown to us, right? And believe me, the thing which are unknown to us, which are unknown to the research fraternity in the context of your research area, that is your opportunity to research upon. And that will decide your research topic also, as well as the research question also. Next slide, please. Yeah. If you look at this picture, this image, right, there's a very common problem that arises after the gaps are being identified. It's not necessary that after the extensive literature review, only a single gap or because being a researcher is not possible to address each and every issues, each and every gap that arises after the literature review, right? Because that totally depends upon the capabilities or competency of researcher, to what extent he can take his research, right? What all research gaps, issues he can address, right? But considering at UG and PG levels, even for the PhDs also, right? So here it becomes a question that which way to go, right? Because many times after literature, many gaps arises, and which gaps, which issues you have to take up as a research project, that become a serious question. Next slide, please. Can we move to next slide?
So Nishit, can we have the next slide, please?
Anyway, uh, despite of many research gaps, many pathways, right? Here, the important thing that researchers have to do is to choose the appropriate path. When we're talking about choosing the appropriate path, is about narrow down the scope and the focus of research. As I've told you, it may not be possible for a researcher to address each and every research gap that is being identified after the literature review, right? So as researcher can address a one particular issue, or he can bundle up few issues to be addressed, right? And this stage we have, because this research gap provides us plenties of probable research questions, right? And it's totally dependent upon the capabilities and the timeline provided to the researcher, right? He has to decide, he or she has to decide upon, right, which research issues he or she have to address, which path he has to follow, right? So this is also a very important stage. We have to decide upon, right, which path I must follow. And for that purpose, we have to narrow down the scope, right? When we say scope of research, it means drawing the boundaries, right? The boundaries can be geographical, geographical location, it can be subject specific, right? For example, there is a research issue in some particular field, right? That is worldwide, but maybe you as a researcher may not be able to uh, conduct the research on the entire world. You have to set some boundaries. Maybe you want to do it on Asia or country India or a state or maybe city New Delhi. Right? So that's the step where we have to choose the appropriate path by narrow down the scope. That means the boundaries. We have to draw certain boundaries that now I will not move further from these boundaries. And important thing over here is that these boundaries must be uh, drawn in a way so that at least you'll be able to generalize the result on the population, right? So though it's written narrow down the scope, it should not be that much narrowed down that it won't be able to, we won't be able, researcher won't be able to generalize in on the population. So we have to keep in mind to what extent we can narrow down the scope and the focus of the study. If I take some example over here, right? Suppose if I need to do some research on motivation level in hospitality industry. If that is the topic is very vague, right? We are talking on the motivation level in hospitality industry, and hospitality industry also includes so many other some bundles of industries such as hotels, restaurants, part of airlines, travel, right? So we have to narrow down, right? Whether I want to do this research, motivation level in hotels, in airlines, and if I talk about motivation level in hotels, then again the question arises whether I'll be choosing 4-star hotels, 5-star hotels, or non-star hotels, right? And if I'm choosing 5-star hotels, then motivation level of which staff or which department do I have to study the motivation level of all 4 departments of the hotel? If all 4 departments, what will be which will be my target respondent? It will be entry level staff, middle level staff, or the top management. Right? So that's the way how we narrow down the scope, right? Because researchers also have some kind of limitations in terms of competency, in terms of fund available, in terms of the time available. Depending upon that, we have to choose a correct path, appropriate path. I would call it correct, which is appropriate path, right? And for choosing the appropriate path, we have to keep down these things in mind. We have to draw the boundaries, right? These boundaries can be location. These boundaries may be the subject specific. Suppose if I want to do some research in marketing, but I will draw a focus that in the marketing, I will be focusing upon, for example, e-marketing or maybe relationship marketing. Okay? So that will help you in deciding upon the appropriate path. Right? So we start with the broad topic. We did some kind of research, background study, so that we can understand the gaps. And uh, there is always a possibility that gaps may be in multiples. Right? So which gap, which issue you have to address? Right? This slide is talking about that. We have to choose the appropriate path. Next slide, please. Yes. Now the question arises that is the chosen path appropriate? Right? The path that was chosen by you, right? It is worth doing, it is appropriate, right? To understand or to get the answer for this particular question that whether I'm going in the correct direction or not, right? We have to answer 2 questions. First is it feasible? Right? The research gap, the research issue that I want to address in my research topic, in my research, whether it's feasible, right? It is workable, right? It is achievable, right? Here again, the competency of the researcher, the fund available to the researcher, and timeline available to the researcher these things matter a lot. Right? Sometimes we take a very ambitious topic and later on we find out like this was not achievable. Right? Maybe because of sometimes we choose a topic where the respondents are not easily available. Suppose if I'm choosing a topic where my respondent will be a top management people and being an early age researcher, they might not be accessible to me to get response from them. At the same time, you have to understand is the research that I want to conduct, is the issue that I want to raise in my research, the gap that I want to address in my research, is that significant? Like, believe me, if your research is having no significance, there is no purpose of doing such research. When I'm saying significant, it means it must be applicable, it must be usable. People may use the results of your study. And when it comes to significant, it comes in two categories. This is the academic contribution, right? Will the outcome of your research, will the topic that you want to address, right? That will provide any kind of academic contribution. Will it contribute to the body of knowledge, right? It will add on to what is unknown and make it known. And another significance that we can see here is like practical implication, or we call it managerial implication, right? Whether the outcome of my research, whether that can be implied practically, whether the manager will be able to use it, right? Because we have to find answers for these things at this step only. Because once the topic is chosen by you, it being finalized by your concerned university or schools, right? Later on, they won't allow you to change the topic. And even it's always not advisable to change the topic because you've already worked a lot on the topic decided by you. And at later stage, if you think you need to change the topic, like, that's not advisable at all. So that's why to know the answer that whether the chosen path is appropriate at this level only, we have to decide upon, we have to think upon, we have to work upon to understand, yes, this research is feasible, I can do it. Right? I know the correct methodologies by which the stated objective of the research can be fulfilled. Right? I know I am capable of reaching to the respondents. Right? I know I'll get my data filled from respondents. Right? I know that I am having that much of time, and this research can be completed within that time frame. And also, right, what will be the outcome of this? The chosen topic, the chosen research gap they want to address, right? Whether it is making difference in the academic world, it is making some difference, it is helping the industry peoples, right? Whether it can be implicable, can we apply it? So all these things had to be discussed, had to be think upon at this stage only. Because this will give validation to your research topics. Otherwise, because same thing you have to answer when you have to submit your proposal in front of your university or school research committee, right? They also ask the same thing. Right? So my idea of doing research and my advice to all the researcher is that please think all of the things, all of these issues beforehand, right? So that at later stage it will not create a kind of hurdle for you people. So here we talk about that choosing the path, right? We have to decide upon that whether the path chosen by me is appropriate or not. Next slide, please. Yeah. So what can be done, right? How do I come to know that the path chosen by me is appropriate? Only answer to this is discuss, discuss, and discuss. Right? Discuss what you are keeping in your mind for your research with your peer researchers, with your fellow colleagues, your research supervisors, industry experts, because they are into that field. They can help you uh, on deciding upon the appropriateness of your chosen research topic, right? The gap that you want to address. So for that reason, you can use the Delphi technique. Brainstorming sessions can be there, right? Where you can present your idea to the fellow colleagues, and they might keep on adding something or the other, right? And it's totally up to you, right? To what extent you want to agree with the comments received from your peer team. But this is a very important stage. I've seen many of the young researchers or early stage researchers, they're very hesitant in sharing their thoughts. They think if I'll share this idea with someone, with my colleagues, they might steal my idea. That is not the case, right? You are just discussing the research topic, right? How you have to carry out your research, the methodology, right? You're not discussing with them, right? So don't be afraid, discuss, discuss, and discuss, right? So that the best outcome can come, and this will help you in deciding that whether this research is feasible, right? Whether this research is significant, whether the topic on which I want to conduct a research that is arise from the research gap, whether it is worth doing it. I'm going to tell you a very funny incident. It happens. There was a young researcher. He was presenting his research in front of his school's research committee, and he was very excited. He was saying that, "Sir, I have chosen a topic in which no work has been done so far. I am the first one to do something." And the counter that received from the research committee is that no one has thought of this topic till now. That might mean that this topic is not worth conducting a research. Right? So these experts, these experienced person may help you in devising, they help you in choosing the appropriate path. It's very important. Next slide, please. Yes, most important step here is that after having a good brainstorming session with the respective groups, right? Please phrase or rephrase the topic if required, right? Because getting insight of other people's already also very important, because the outcome of your research is to be read by the people, read by the researcher, right? So their opinions matter a lot, because we are whatever we are doing is we are doing so that can contribute to the body of knowledge, at the same time can be applied also. So phrase, rephrase at this stage, very important. But before rephrasing, right, we have to keep in our mind that research feasibility and the significance of the research. And again, if you're satisfied at this level, well and good. Otherwise, move back and reach to the previous ladder, previous step of the ladder. That is my research appropriate? Is I've chosen the appropriate path, right? Keep on doing this exercise until unless you feel satisfied and you feel confident enough. Yes, now I know all in and outs of my research, all issues that can be arise while conducting research, right? Until unless you're not satisfied with each and every point, keep on doing this exercise. Phrase, rephrase. Consult with the peer group, discuss it with them, right? And also, sometime at this level also, reading the similar papers might help you, right? How other people are doing this work, right? There is no harm in replicating any study. If the study is being conducted in the same line in some other industry, can be replicated in your industry. The same studies has been conducted in some other location that can be replicated at your location also. But this is very important step. This is the step where you get the correct phrase to be researched upon. Can we do next slide, please? Yes. So when you're confident enough that yes, now I've answered all this thing, all the concern that start in this journey of deciding the research topic and research question, right? Whether I have appropriately narrowed down my research, right? To the extent it can be generalized to the population, right? When I'm confident enough that yes, this research is feasible, it's workable, it can be done, right? Whether when I am confident enough to tell the people the significance of my study, that yes, if I conduct this research on this particular issue which has not been researched in, which was not found in the literature, it was a gap, I want to address this gap, right? And the outcome of this entire research will certainly help the academic world. It will contribute to the body of knowledge. It will help the manager in applying the outcome of the study, while applying the outcome of the study in their practical field, right? This is the time, let's begin the journey, and I hope and believe the best is yet to happen when your research will be completed. But choosing the topic is very important thing. Next slide, please. Yeah. So for a brief recap for the entire roadmap, if I talk it in a sequential chronological manner, so we begin with identifying the broad area of interest, right? The area of interest is on which you intend to research upon, right? Your area of interest may be in which you are passionate enough. But remember, don't get sentimental, right? Researcher and subject are two separate things, right? We are not here to prove anything. Once again, I'm stating this point, stress a statement that our work is simply the study, the phenomena, and present the true reality of the phenomena or the subject to the world. Right. So once the broad area is identified, yes, please do some preliminary research, right? We call it a background study, but that study has to be extensive enough so that we'll be able to identify all kind of probable implied questions. That is the research gap. And when we have multiple gaps, we have to decide upon, right, which gaps, which issues we have to address. And that leads to the next stage, that is narrow down the scope and focus of your research. Right? Scope is drawing the boundaries, and focus of the research means which gaps, which gap or which bundles of gap you want to address. What will be the focus? Your focus of research is on addressing the all gaps, or certain gaps, or some we can say bunches of gaps, right? That falls in the same kind of purview. So once the research is narrowed down, focus has been established, we have to work upon to evaluate the research topic or the research question, right? I've told you, you have to check for its feasibility, you have to check for its implication also, right? And this is the stage which says point number 4, 5, and 6. We keep on doing this exercise until unless we are confident enough, we are satisfied enough with all the queries that comes to my mind as a researcher, right? So we keep on doing this thing, right? We choose that, we evaluate the topic, we discuss with the peer teams, we discuss with the colleagues, we discuss with the researchers from other universities, we discuss with our seniors, we can discuss it from our research supervisors, right? We can discuss it with the industry people who are actually facing this problem or who belongs to the same domain, right? And during these discussions, the answers need to be sought out here is the feasibility and implication, whether the research is workable, whether this can be done or not, right? Whether uh, at this level of maybe UG, PG, master students or PhD students, Right? Whether it is able, whether it is, it is, whether I'm compatible enough, I'm competent enough to do that thing. Also, the implication, right? What new my research will give to the world, right? Will it add it to the, will it add to the body of the knowledge? It will create some kind of academic contribution so that we says that some kind of academic gap can be fulfilled, or at the same time whether it is applied at managerial level, right? Can be practically, it is feasible, it is practicable to apply them in the real situation, right? And while finding the questions, or while finding the answers to these questions, we have to keep on doing this exercise, phrase, rephrase the research topic if required. And when the things are okay, we can begin the research. The next slide, please. So here are a few tips that we need to follow while formulating our research topic and research question. We already discussed, follow the area of interest, but don't be sentimentals. We are not here to prove anything. We are here only to present the true reality of the fact, phenomena, subject, or the situation. Another important tip here is that try to avoid the exhausted area. Right? There are few areas on which lot many researchers has been done. Right? So try to avoid these areas. Right? But in my personal opinion, none of the areas exhausted. There is always a scope for doing something new in each and every area. But again, for the early researcher, for the young age researcher, it's humble advice, right? Try to avoid the areas in which almost very much work has been done, and that happens many a time when the researchers comes and ask the question, sir, I'm doing this literature for past 30 days and still I'm not able to identify some gap. So whatever I think of, I'll found that that's being already addressed in some other research or research papers. So at early stage, we can avoid doing these things, right? Don't be exhausted. Don't choose the area which is exhausted in nature. At the same time, try avoid a controversial area. Uh, if you are not competent enough in handling any controversial topic, don't enter into it. Right? At this stage, at early stage, try to take a topic which is free from the controversy. If I take an example from the famous movie of Dr. Uh, Sanjay Leela Bhansali Saab, the movie Padmavat, right? Director have done lots of research in framing that screenplay and the story for that movie, but being in controversial area, right, he end up in trouble. The same thing happens to researchers also sometimes, right? So please avoid using an area, right? You found like it will create a controversy later on, right? Try to pick a smooth area, right? An area which is not much exhausted. Another thing that we have to keep in our mind is the topic has to be appealing, right? The topic creates interest in the people once they read your title. The title has to be appealing enough, right? Right? It will attract the people attention, right? It helps in creating the interest of the readers or the researchers, right? So it has to be appealing enough, crisp. When I say crisp, that means it has to be not too lengthy, not too short, right? It has to be self-explanatory, right? Uh, a topic should be devised, it should be phrased in a manner that by reading the topic, anyone can come to know what you want to do in this research. Believe me, the topic has to be in a way, right? A topic itself can be a brief synopsis of your research, right? Frame your topic in which all the unanswered questions that might be asked by the reader are explained within topics. Still, keeping it crisp, short. Right? Topic does not mean that you'll write 2, 3, 4 lines. It has to be single line. Maybe 10 to 15 words are more than enough for having a topic, right? But it must explain the genesis of research, right? It has to be in a way that any researcher need not to read your proposal. Everything is mentioned in there in the topic. Another important thing is that avoid technical terms, phrases, or the words with special meaning. Every industry have got some special abbreviations, special technical words, right? So, sorry, try to avoid these kind of terms, these technical terms, right, which the reader find it difficult to understand. Right? Sometimes these terms can be misinterpreted also. So keep your title, keep your topic as simple as possible, but yes, self-explanatory. While deciding the topic, also check for the timeline available. As I've told you, if it's for the PhD students, it might be 3 to 4 years or 2 to 4 years. If it's the PG and UG students, usually they have this project or research in the last semester. So whatever topic you are taking, right, please see whether that available timeline is sufficient enough to complete that project. Right? Sometimes students take the longitudinal study or time series study, right, where the data has to be collected at two different points. For example, if you talk about, I want to study the impact of industrial training on the students, or on hotel management students. Right? So in that case, I have to collect the data from the students before the start of their training, and I have to collect the response from the same students, same sets of students after the training has been completed. And that will prolong the research, right? So keeping the time frame of your the timeline that's available to you, that is being provided to you by universities and school, right? Please see to it also while deciding the research topic. Check for feasibility and implication. I think we have talked enough, but yes, again, the topic has to be feasible enough, right? It is workable. At the same time, whether the topic or the research issue that is being addressed by you and reflected in your research topic, whether it will give something to the society or not, right? Whether it will the yield result will help in contributing to the body of knowledge, or will that outcome of the research will be applied by the managers to solve their real life problems. Next tip I want to give here is that check for the availability of related research material. When I'm saying availability of related research material, right, that means whether you have sufficient background research available, sufficient literature available, right? Sometimes we need to have some reports, not a research paper, but sometimes we require a data, right? Maybe the tourist inflow in India, foreign tourist inflow in India for past 20 years, right? We have to keep in check on these things also, right? What all I want to include in my research, whether these informations are available, right? If I have to check the government website, Ministry of Tourism, I guess 10 years data is available, but if you talk about 20 years data, it will be difficult to get, right? To check for all kind of related research material. It might be reports, it might be the old archives, it might be the related research, or it might be the papers which start with the genesis of that particular research topic. That means if I want to draw some definition, I have to start with the very the first paper that talked about that particular issue. Whether I'll be able to reach that research papers, will able to reach that the reports, the statistical data that will be required by me, or maybe the news articles. Right? So we have to keep in check on these things also, that whether the sufficient research material is available for me, for my research topic, so that I can establish a good background for my research. And sometimes these problems commonly being addressed by many of the researchers. They say that I'm doing a lot of hard work, but I'm not able to get any content in this related field. It happens many often. Right? I want to check something, some phenomena which was there in automobile industry, but I'm researching on hotel industry. Nothing is available in that case. Right? So in that case, we have something available, but in some different industry. Right? That can also be utilized, saying that this has been checked in automobile industry. I want to check that in a hospitality industry. But please, 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 that's the reason I've told you with a very second step, do an extensive literature review, right? So that at the later stage, you not get stuck somewhere, right? The only way to have a smooth research journey is to have a good research topic, right? The topic which answers all these queries, right? Which is to be completed within the timeline, the topic which is feasible, the topic which have some implications, the research have some implication after it has been conducted, right? Whether the topic that the research issue that I want to address, right? Whether sufficient literature, sufficient related research material is available to me or not, or I need to take extra efforts to gather these kind of literature, research materials. Sometimes a researcher have to collect all these things by himself, and sometimes it's very long process also. And the last tip from my ends, right, which I feel very, very important, especially to the young researcher and the early stage researcher, is easy accessibility of the respondents. Sometimes what happens, we choose a topic without giving due consideration that where my respondents are located. And at a time of data collection, right, again, it causes a big hurdle to us to locate my respondent to get data filled from them. For example, if my report, if my research is on a topic, right? For example, is maybe revenue strategies, room revenue strategies, or maybe destination marketing, right? All these topics, the respondents have to be the top officials. If I'm talking about room revenue strategies, right, I have to reach the revenue managers, or maybe some corporate strategies for the hotels. In that case, I have to reach to the vice presidents, right? Are they accessible to me? Are they willing to answer my queries? Same if I'm talking about destination promotion, right? I want to check what are the measures taken by these DMOs, right? Whether these DMOs are available, are accessible to me, whether they are ready enough, right? Sometimes I have a topic that I and my data needs to be filled by the foreign travelers of five-star hotels, right? Whether the hotel allow you to get your questionnaire filled with this foreign travelers, or whether the foreign travelers are comfortable enough to giving the information to you for your research. Right? Sometimes I'm having a topic where our respondents are hidden. For example, if I want to study uh, staying pattern of LGBT groups, third gender group, right? Whether I'll be able to locate the respondent of this group from hotel, or maybe if I'm talking about some sensitive a topic which is very sensitive, right, where people are not readily uh, not happily open up to me to answer me correctly, right? If I am doing some research on bar frauds, right, none of the steward, none of the bartender will tell me, no, I am doing bar fraud, these are the way we can do bar fraud, because it will be difficult for them, right? it's difficult to get a rapport with the respondent also. Right? So whatever topic you are choosing, like my respondents are easily accessible to me, right? Are they responded that I wish to choose? They will answer my questions. The topic that I have chosen is not sensitive enough that people might hide the original true information. They may write the fake response on the questionnaires, right? So these are the things we have to keep in our mind while phrasing or while deciding the research topic. My only submission for this topic is that when you choose your topic, do an extensive literature review, right? Which has to be done later on as the part of the research process. Chapter number 2 of literature review, right? Don't postpone it to that at that stage. Do it at the stage of deciding your topic. And once the topic has been decided on based upon the gaps, check for the feasibilities, check for the implications, right? Check for the focus, check for the scope of the study. And last not the least, please check for the respondents also. Sometimes data collection become very tedious job for a researcher because the respondent chosen by him, right, or her, what not easily readily available. Next slide, please. Oh, thank you so much. Thanks for inviting me, and thanks for listening me very patiently. Any questions you have? Still, we have 5 minutes. Dr. Saurabh, we
Yes,
can
sir.
allow
We
questions.
have one question, sir, from
Okay.
Geeta Sharma. She wished to work with culinary tourism or say gastronomic tourism
Okay.
regarding the research. So test her how to choose her objectives and how to choose sample for this research related to gastronomic tourism.
Okay. For the gastronomic thing, again, I've told you that we have to start with the literature, right? We have to identify the gaps. That's the only thing. Because the gaps will tell us the research questions, right? What is not known, right? Maybe 5 things are there which is not known. For example, whether my research questions might be whether the culinary tourism helps the local culinary players. For example, it might be one research question. And the objective will be subsequent to that to identify whether the culinary tourism helps the local culinary player. Regarding the choosing the sample, the thing over here we have to consider is that what is the scope of my study, right? What are the boundaries drawn by me? And certainly there are some scientific formulas also for drawing the correct appropriate sample size. Hopefully in the coming sessions of sampling that might be discussed, right? But as a rule of thumb, at this level, what I can tell you, sometimes we can do one most very simple exercise is that how many questions you are asking the statements in a questionnaire into 10. For example, if you're having 50 statements in your research questionnaire, right, rule of thumb says, right, if there are 50 statements, the sample size must be at least 500. I hope I answered the query.
Yes.
And
I also believe that gastronomic tourism very vast. The step she should for is to kind of restrict the topic or restrict the sample. She should probably go for a region or a specific area wherein she would like to do her study very
certainly,
vague in
certainly,
the form of gastronomic tourism.
yeah, because
One
gastronomic tourism has also got so many different avenues, different paths,
multiple, yes,
right? The path C has to choose, C has to decide upon after discussing with experts, right? And also C has to draw a focus and the scope. He has to draw the boundaries of one certain location or certain aspect of culinary tourism, right? So that's what I'm saying. Culinary tourism is a broader topic. This is a broad area of the choice. Now, the concerned researcher had to do some literature to understand what are the various aspects of culinary tourism and which aspect she wished to carry on for her research study. I think the time is also done. I hope I have justified my time.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Anything?
Thank you.
Any other questions there?
Thank you so much.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much
Thank you,
for
Dr.
taking out
Saurabh, for
time.
calling me. Thank you, Sushant University, for inviting me. Have a great day.
To sir. Thank you so much, everyone. I would like to request all the attendees to sign in because we have our next resource. So we'll be taking one component, one very important component of a whole research cycle. So that's how to draft a research synopsis. So all attendees, if you can probably just stay connected, we'll start our next section within next 2 or 3 minutes. We have Dr. Manas with us. If we have Dr. Manas with us, are you there? Do we have Dr. Manas with us? Has he joined in?
Chef, I don't see him in the list.
Okay.
Can we just check
So
the other list also?
we'll start in the next 3 minutes. Meanwhile, I would again request all the attendees to keep sign in. That's a very important session that he'll be taking. The next 2 minutes. Signing in. Meanwhile, choosing and framing the right research topic is like half of the battle won. And I would like to again add on to what Ms. Geeta Sharma has asked. Probably there are some websites or resources wherein it will be very helpful for you if you can just go to Science Direct or ResearchGate or Google Scholar and search for the topics wherein the researchers have done their research on gastronomic tourism, and probably it will be very easy for you once you see all the researches in the past by eminent researchers on that specific region that you are selecting. It will be very helpful to formulate your own topic based on the researches that has already been conducted in the past. That's one way to conduct or one way to carry out the research topic formulation process, and that will be very fruitful and easy for you to again compile your own topic, which has almost all the components that Dr. Saraswati has just mentioned. Next up, we have second step. The first one is research topic, and now the second step is to draw out a plan for your research project, which can only be done by drafting a research synopsis. Now, this is very important for all the scholars who are at a stage of submitting the research synopsis, being a very important step and the most crucial one. Synopsis serves as an outline of your research. That's again like a mini research of its own. And to talk about the same, we have Professor Dr. Parikshit Singh Manas, Director Udhampur Campus, Director School of Hospitality and Tourism Management, Director and CEO UOJS PVF, a section of 8 company, Director UBIIC Jammu. Dr. Manas has earned his PhD in 2005 in brand positioning strategies from University of Jammu and postmasters in electronic commerce and information sciences from Albers School of Business at Seattle University, USA in 2000. He has been awarded with UK ERI Project, Commonwealth, Hungarian Faculty Research and Shastri Indo-Canadian Fellowship. His MBA and MTM. Behalf of Vatel Hotel and Tourism Business School, Sushant University, we welcome Dr. Manas. Thank you so much, Dr. Manas, for accepting our invitation, for being a resource person. I guess he's signing in and probably there is some issue with connection that he's logging out again and again. I can see a certain kind of a drop in the list of attendees. Probably we have lost almost 9 to 10 attendees. So again, just a humble request to all the attendees to keep signed in. This will be our next session, which will be around 40 to 45 minutes, and a very important or the key session wherein every research scholar has to come up with a research synopsis. After doing the research synopsis and submitting it, probably then he can start working on the actual research process that he has to undergo. That's one very important topic, and for that we have an eminent researcher who has done, he has given almost 20 to 22 years in the process of research and have published many research papers in the Scopus and eminent research journals. So within just 3 or 4 minutes, we will have Dr. Manas with. Yes, so I guess we have Dr. Manas with us now.
Yes, we do.
You could just please switch on the microphone and camera.
Sure.
Sunil Chef, can we help him to?
Yes, yes, doing it, chef. Doing it, chef.
Great. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
How are you, sir? How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Sorry
Sir,
about all
I've
the
already given a brief overview about your accomplishments, and it has been, I guess,
Alright.
about 5 minutes since our last session was already
Okay.
our attendees about you. So probably we can directly start with the topic for the day, and without any delay, I'd like to request Dr. Manas to speak on the session drafting a research synopsis. So, sir, the first session was how to formulate research topic, taken up by Dr. Arvind from Banasidas Chandiwala Institute. This is the second key important step. Now we have a lot of research scholars here also in the attendees. Our university, Sushant University, and from the other academic institutions. So if you could just give a brief about or just key highlights on how to draft their research synopsis. That's the very important questions that coming up, especially with the research scholars, and there have been a lot of loopholes or kind of key highlights or key points that they should consider. So, sir, over to you without any delay.
Thank you so Saurav, and it's your persistence that made me come over here today and work on things. But it's nice that young faculty like you are doing good job and working with various researchers around the globe as well as within the country and trying to give a great atmosphere to your students or peers or to your contemporaries and to everybody. So the new software that I'm using, although I've been using like Microsoft Teams also and WebEx also, everything. But this one I haven't used ever. So where is the point from where I can start sharing screens? That's something
On the
which I'm
right
trying
hand
to look
side, top corner, you will see an option for share content.
Okay, I can see where it shows the participant roster, then the chat, and then moderator chat, and then sharing options. Okay, great.
Yes, yes, sir. Just click on that sharing option once.
So then I go towards sharing screens. Okay, because I'm using multiple screens over here because I have a couple of things lined up, my desktop and my other screen is, so I have 3 systems lined up. So I'm just trying to see. Okay, start sharing. So it's not showing as of now. Is my screen visible? No.
It's a dark. Yeah, we can see your screen, sir, now.
Yes.
Not, you can see, but I can't see that whether it is shared or not.
It's on the screen, sir.
That's something good, but I cannot see that whether I'm sharing the right screen or not. I cannot see anything. I'm only seeing that I'm sharing my screen. That's it.
So if you just
Okay.
try
Okay.
changing the page, sir, I think you have presented the full screen now. It presents just the PowerPoint.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm trying to present the PowerPoint. So is that visible?
Yes.
Is the
Yes, it
first
is.
slide visible? Okay, great. So now I'll go to the slideshow. No, this is something else. Let me see. Okay. When I make a slideshow, it goes. I don't know what's going on. Is my slideshow visible to you?
No, sir, not the slideshow. If you could just stop presenting from there, and when you click on Start Presenting, you choose All Content or the main screen.
Okay.
Maybe you have clicked on just one
Let
single
me
window.
sharing options. If I go to sharing options, it
Yes, sir.
says share video or all that. Then it is polls and Q&A. Share option, I only get one is share screen and another is share video. So I
The share
click on
screen.
one. So once I go to
Shares.
the shared screen, it shows me
Hmm.
my multiple screens that which one I want to share. So
Is it not showing the option for
I
all
am.
screens?
It's it's showing me one. I think it is screen one, and it's small little this. Let me start with this one. What
It is
does it
showing
start
entire
doing
screen
now?
or window.
Okay, so mhm.
Yes, we
It's
can see your
again,
entire screen now, sir. So if we just go to PPT,
yeah, but I can't see the. So you can't see my PPT now.
not yet, sir.
So that means this is showing my this computer, this Mac which I'm working on.
Yes,
My
yes, yes, sir.
presentation is on my ancillary device. So I have
Okay.
another device on my right side connected, which is this one, and now it should show my presentation. It's
Sir, if
showing
you would
you.
like to share the presentation with us, probably you can mail and we'll run it for you.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. That is also an option. But can you see it now? Okay, I'll do one more thing. Just close all my ancillary devices.
Not yet, sir.
Okay.
It's coming as
अब मैं करता हूँ ना. अब मैं इसको. ओके, मैं समझ गया. इसको ancillary device नहीं चल रहे हैं, तो मैं इसको यहाँ से चला लेता हूँ. अब ठीक है. Now you can see everything.
it's loading right now. We're just waiting for the screen.
I guess.
मेरा इंटरनेट
So maybe
होती
internet
नहीं
issue
थी.
because we can see a black screen.
Not an
So if you
issue.
can mail that to Soroshef, we can run it from here.
अभी मैं करता हूँ. मैं इनको वो भेज देता हूँ. WhatsApp कर देता हूँ अभी इसको.
ठीक है.
WhatsApp पे. आपको एक बार भी मेरी स्क्रीन नहीं दिखाई दी थी ना? या एक बार पहले दिखाई दे रही थी?
Blank screen आ रही है. अब we
The
can see your
first,
PowerPoint, sir.
now we can see you, sir.
You can see. Okay, great, perfect. So अब हम we move with this. Actually, I cannot see what is being seen by you, so that's an issue. So that's
This is the
the
first slide
issue that
that
I
we are
was.
seeing.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Then. If you can see, then we like.
We can
So
see your PowerPoint, but not the presentation. We can see the PowerPoint editing mode, not the screen
yeah, but
presenting
now
mode.
it will be very soon in the presentation mode also. It takes time to beam up, but it will be there. So you let me know when it is there. In the meantime, I'll start like this one. Okay. So
Sir, if you
research.
move on to the next second slide.
Okay.
Yes, sir, it's visible.
And it's in the presentation mode?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Great. So very good afternoon to all of you. Good afternoon to all the participants who have been patiently listening to our troubleshooting. That's another thing that was going on. My name is Parikshat, and you have been, I think, as Saurabh told me that he has briefed you. This is going to be a very quick sort of a interaction that we are going to have. It's not going to be a very longish one or something where we can actually make masters of writing synopsis. But I'll just try to look at what it is all about and how it works and how it builds up the things. And I'll give you some food for thought and then some mantra also in the end. And you can always look at those mantras and think about what to do and how to build up. Well, honestly speaking, the way the research is progressing these days and these days I need to say about the technology aspect, the way the technology has actually taken over and the information. I still remember when one of the senior professors of my department, when I joined, he used to tell me that we had to go and cyclostyle and we had to run machine codes and then we would get the data and then we would be able to apply things. And I used to think, okay, what he's talking about. And we had those computers with us, but we used to have floppy disks, and then we have CDs also later on coming up. But earlier it was floppy drives that we used to use. And then suddenly now the time has reached to level. At that time, if I talk about 95, 97 when I was doing my MBA, 2000 when I was doing my PhD, and I was working on various aspects. At that time, I've never thought that by a click of a button, I would get so much information online that it will be just difficult to handle it. But yes, today it is a reality after 22 years. And the basic point is that there's lots and lots of data. I call it as data in the virtual space, but you need to have that consistency or that knowledge to process that data, transform that data into information, weed out unwanted things. That is what the information period of time, and they're in a different aspect and a different manner. When we talk about research synopsis, obviously it has to be a focused and a logical and a consistent one. These are three key words that you have to look at and that you have to keep thinking about in times to come. So we always have a focused view on your research, because what happens is that you get so much information online. जैसे कि मैंने पहले शुरू किया, you get so much information online. Because of this information, you might get what we refer to as off the track. You might start including everything that you feel is important, but which actually would not be important, which because of which you actually lose your focus, and which does not make a logical conclusion of the ideas that you have thought. So whatever your proposed research is, always be focused, logical, and consistent. What common mistakes people usually make, or students or scholars do make? They use too many keywords. They are thinking of adding each and everything. For them, everything becomes a necessity. For them, everything becomes very important and useful. That is actually not the case, and that should not be the case. So look at just the main issues or the questions that you're looking at, and then intend to find answers for. So the basic, be very clear in what you are trying to do. That's very important. So clarity of thought, or ye nahi aa pata hai. This is easier said than done. Sometimes it takes a year or so for people to understand that what actually is required, or what is the clear focus or the main question or main issue of their research. So that is a very, very important aspect that you need to look at and that you need to find. So try to build up that clarity of thoughts. Another very important aspect is that your persistence. How persistent you are and how convincing you are in your ideas. I'm from a management background, and I've done my research in marketing and my PhD in branding, and working primarily for past 10 years now in tourism and hospitality stream, and working on all these things. As a marketer, as a manager, as a brand expert, or as somebody who is in this field, I always feel that whatever you have in your mind, you should have a clarity to sell those ideas. So basically आपने अपना thought को बेचना कैसे है वो important. How you convince others and how you sell your research idea. That is what your research synopsis is all about. And you are only able to sell something if you are able to decode it, if you are able to understand what are ins and outs of that particular product. And this research synopsis is going to be your product. So your proposed research is one of your, we can say it is a prototype of product. Basic fact is that how do you sell your research idea? How do you market it to people around you? That is a very important aspect, and that only comes the more you know about it. The more you know about it, the more information that you have, more knowledge that you have, the more thoughts that you have used vis-a-vis that is concerned. Once you know ins and outs of that particular topic, nobody in this world will be able to take that topic away from you or will not be convinced by your thought process. So that's what something which I keep referring towards and keep telling everybody should be there. And last but not least, it should be an original thought. It has to be an original thought and it has to be a very, very important thought. So it should be able to make that significant change in your life, the lives of the people who are connected with you. So you should be able to make some significant, I'd say, inroads vis-a-vis that particular topic is concerned. But you should always also be able to justify the fact that this is critical for the work that you try to build up. For every research proposal, for every research thought that you are trying to build up, there has to be a proper plan of action. And once for a plan of action, you always need some good thought process, some ideas, some very important aspect. So what you are thinking of that what your research synopsis is actually going to do, what is the importance of your research synopsis? This plan of action is actually dependent upon the key concepts that you are looking at, and these key concepts you need to make people understand that what these key concepts are and how these are working on. Now the problem is that what happens with the youngsters these days that they may not have complete knowledge, they may not that they still try to portray that we are the master, we are going to be masters of this, which is actually a wrong thought process. So what I always keep referring towards my scholars, and I always to my scholars rather, what I always keep referring to my scholars is that always try to have a hang of the key concepts that you are working on. If you don't have a hang of it, build up a roadmap that how you are going to build it up. And a research synopsis help you to create that roadmap. If you build up a effective and efficient manner, be able to build up that. And when your application for PhD or a research proposal or a research program is being assessed, this is a very, very important aspect of this. And various skills that you have. Now, some people have analytical skills, some people are very good in quantitative, some are very good in qualitative research. Their thought process is very good as far as their qualitative research is going on. Some people are very good in presentation aspects. So whatever skills, people are very good writers. So whatever skills that you possess, try to use them to your best of your and try to build up a research proposal based on that. And this also, a research synopsis or research proposal will provide you an opportunity to showcase them to the outside world, and they will be able to build it up. So what are the ingredients of a strong synopsis? There are primarily, I think, three important aspects that we have. And the first one is the issue. Now, knowing the problem and what does it address. हमने कई बार सुना होगा, कई बार देखा होगा, we have seen, must have experienced in our families or in our extended families, some of those aspects, we must have had seen that they must have had gone to a doctor and doctor must have had treated them for a wrong disease or a wrong problem. Or we must have seen that a wrong surgery is done. Or because of that, a lot of fatalities also happen. So problem is knowing the problem. Half of us are not aware of what the problem is. We are not even aware of what the problems in our lives are. We are not able to understand because we are not able to hit the core issue. We try to keep ignoring that particular core issue, and that in itself, in times to come, becomes a hassle for us. So the issue, the clarity vis-a-vis the issue is there, knowing a problem and what does it address, actually what does it address. These are very, very important aspects that you need to look at and that you need to work on. The second aspect comes vis-a-vis your research design is concerned. So you should have a sound methodology to achieve your objectives. Obviously, once your problem is clear and everything, you should be able to portray a strong research design. Here a word of caution is that it does not necessarily mean that you are aware of various methodologies, aware of those strengths and weaknesses of those tools. You may not know how to use those tools. You may not know how to run those methodologies or how to achieve those objectives, but you should at least know that what are the strengths and weaknesses of each and every tool. सैंपल डिजाइन कैसे किया जाता है, व्हाट आर बेसिस सैम्पलिंग मेथड्स, उनके बारे में पता होना बड़ा जरूरी है. यू शुड बी अवेयर ऑफ दैट. You may not know that how to use that when you are actually doing your research and when you are actually working on things. That's altogether a different story. But at least have a strong overview of these particular things. Research design, having an understanding of that is a very, very important. And the last but not the least is the benefits that are going to be derived out of your research. How your work is going to contribute to the society. The three very important components: academia, industry, and society. Society also would include government and all that stuff. So these are three very important stakeholders. So the benefits, obviously, and nowadays, whatever research you are doing, how it is going to benefit the industry. The way this Startup India programs are being worked out, or where this innovation, incubation, startups, entrepreneurship, all these streams are coming up. Now everybody is looking for research which is actually applicable or which can be applied to the market, to the industry. Applied research is getting more and more, what I'll say, it is being expected more and more of people. And more and more people are looking towards doing that. So that's an important aspect. So how your work is going to contribute, towards industry, society, or government. This is important aspect which needs to be reflected in your synopsis, and this is one of those aspects which needs to be actually. This is one of those deliverables which everybody would be looking at. So the next one aspect is, after these three basic ingredients, what you need to do is choose your research topic. Obviously, choose it very, very wisely. Try to see to it that what thoughts you are going to study on. If you're trying to work on branding or marketing or something of that, how do you work it up? Narrow it down and find a niche area in that research topic. For example, if you're working on marketing or branding, and if you want to work on destination branding or brand positioning strategies or destination positioning strategies or destination brand image or something like that, that is a very important aspect of you. Or how sustainability impacts a destination's brand image, or how sustainability impacts destination working aspects. So that these are some of the things that you need to understand and need to be very, very cautious and very understanding vis-a-vis it is concerned. So once you have narrowed it down to your niche area or to the comfortable area, obviously you have to look at how to identify a research problem. So what are the problems in that? So for example, if we are looking at if we are looking at building up a brand, or if we are looking at destination branding and thinking of working in that particular stream, what is the research problem on hand? So which of the destinations around you have a problem on hand, or who are not able to portray themselves, or not able to build up their destination? So that is a very important aspect. Develop a clear research question. Vis-a-vis these research problems are concerned, you have to develop a clear research question. So that is the next step that you need to look at. 3 to 4 or sometimes 5 questions. Ideal is a 4-1. Minimum is 3-1, 3 questions. Maximum is a 5-1. So these are the clear research questions which everybody everybody needs to understand and look at, which everybody needs to understand and look at, and which you should have, uh, and which you have a thought process of understanding and building it up. Create a research designed to answer these research questions. That's the next aspect. And I was telling you about research design. Sometimes what happens, this is where we make some certain mistakes. We tend to make certain mistakes, and these actually become embedded in your research. And by the time you're finishing your PhD, these mistakes keep carrying on, and eventually you are not able to do the work to your satisfaction or to the satisfaction of your stakeholders. So I'm sure most of us are not very well versed with the research aspect. That means the tools that we are going to use, the sampling techniques that we are going to use, the sample size that we need to take up. I very well understand that students may not be aware of, the scholars may not be aware of them. They are in the initial phase, but at least they should be aware of the importance of these tools. How do we run those tools? That is a second question. The first question is the importance of that particular tool. What is the importance of each sampling technique? Very important. You are going to use stratified sampling, random stratified, who you are going to build a data, you are going to have focus group interviews, you are going to have open-ended questions, you have a closed-ended question, you are going to collect your sample. What is the importance of having focus group research interviews? So you should be at least be aware of what is the importance of each one of them. That is a important aspect. And the last one would be obviously writing your research proposal. So now I come to the process of making a synopsis. How do we make synopsis? How do we make synopsis? And how do we build them up? How do we build them? Process of identifying a topic. So the first aspect is that we try to identify a topic. So try to work with starting a broad area or the area that you are in. There is no substitute to reading. If you have a good understanding of your topic, you have need to read, because every day, every other day, what is happening, new research is being built up. Thoughts are being brought up. New things are coming up. Writings, all these research actually is adding to the what we have knowledge of that particular subject or knowledge of that particular what we call it as area, subject area or topic. So that's very important. So read even if you have good understanding of your topic. That's a very important aspect, because we always miss out something. As the way I started, and I told you that what happens is there's so much data available just on a click of a button. How to process that data? How to process that data in such a way that you are able to build it up, or you are able to work out which is understandable and finding your niche. Why things one topic, you'll be obviously identify problems, various problems, what are the recent debates that are going on. And what happens is we think of X thing is a very important aspect, and by the time we start reading about it, that X becomes redundant. I'll give you an example. In 2019, October or November or December, if you talk about, one of the most over-researched or over-talked about thing where lots of debates and contradictions were going on was over-tourism. And there were examples, for example, in Barcelona in November, somewhere around November 2019, what they did was there were a lot of protests carried out by the local population. They did not want any tourist around. They did not want anybody to be coming to Barcelona, because they thought that they're creating problems. That will be brought up a lot. drug addiction was being taken over in Barcelona. A lot of crime was rising in Barcelona. So over tourism was one of those was very talked about. And many destinations people were thinking of that what are the negatives of over tourism. And suddenly from 2019 November, December to 2020 March, that's a gap of 3 months. From over tourism, we were to zero tourism. Around the globe, more than 200 destinations around the globe had one or the other type of restrictions, very serious type of restrictions. 200 of them had even closed their borders. No international traveler, no domestic travelers were being allowed. So over tourism to somebody who was planning in 2019 November that over tourism and he shapes up a research question and all that, and suddenly he finds in 2020 March. And now a lot of our students, a lot of my scholars, we have lots and lots of issues going on where my scholars are becoming very rigid, or a lot of scholars are becoming very rigid. This sir, we started our research in 2019. What's our problem if the COVID came in between? So how do we handle that? 2020, 2021, and you're making your submission in 2022. So you have to get those things. So narrow down, finding your niche area, constantly reading about it, that what debates and contradictions are going on, and leaving a scope for their addition is a very, very important aspect. That needs to be understood. Very, very clear of. So here's an example that carved out where of narrowing down on the research topic, which I have in a way I been explaining to you. So let's move on to the next aspect, that is identifying. So once you have identified that niche, next step is to investigate what exactly is your research and why does it matter. So putting your problem in few words, that means writing a problem statement, is again an art. A lot of students were coming to me during these pandemic times, when pandemic was at its peak, that I'm talking about April, May 2020 to June 2020 and July 2020. And the one constant question was that what should we do? Is tourism going to, as an industry, going to stay? Or what are the downsides, and is our tourism degrees are going to be of value? Is our research going to be of value, and what should we do if we are not doing research at this moment? There is no market, nothing. So what do we talk about? What do we build? And I was constantly telling them, start reading and write, start learning how to effectively and efficiently write. Take as many online classes or listen to as many online lectures as possible, and so that you get the art of writing. If you are given to write something, if you're given a topic and asked to write 10 pages about it, it will be, mark my words, it is a lot easier. But if I have to write 10 lines about that thing and make effectively and efficiently people understand what I'm trying to write, that's lot difficult. That's lot more. It has lot more difficulties attached to it. Lot more wide range of problems attached to it. That's what you have to master. Problem statement. Use your words wisely. Use your thoughts wisely, and have it penned down in such a manner that it gives us positive signal to your clients or to your stakeholders. The next is research questions. You need to formulate research questions. Don't formulate vague research questions. That's an important aspect. A good research question is one of those which can actually be answered thoroughly using research methods. So the aspect is, sometimes you have, while formulating research questions, you have to do reverse engineering also. Always try to look at that, how to do reverse engineering based upon that. So the fact is that how you are going to answer those questions, that if you have some sort of an idea that how you are going to answer those questions, it will also give you a clarity vis-a-vis how you need to frame those questions. So your research question has to be one which would actually show your stakeholders or the people who are going to pass your synopsis that it requires an in-depth investigation, analysis, and argumentation, but it also is something which is doable, which can be done. So that is an important aspect, that it requires investigation, yes, but it is also doable. Sometimes what happens is you pose a research question and it shows that it requires research investigation, but it says that it is not doable because it requires extensive amount of resources. By resources, I mean to say it requires a lot of men, money, machinery, methods, and it cannot be a PhD work or a research work. You need a team of maybe 7 to 10 people to finish it off. So then also there's a problem related to it. Okay, creating a research design. So developing a framework for research questions. That means what sort of framework is going to be there, whether it's going to be questionnaires or what is going to be that. That is a very important aspect. The type of data that is going to be collected, the methods, the locations, the time scale for research. Time scale is something usually we don't pay much attention to the time scale, but eventually we are worried about the time only, that okay, it's going to be we have to finish in 3 hours or 3 years or 2 years or 4 years, and that's what we are constantly look at, but we don't understand that how much time each of these activities is going to take. So when you're preparing your research synopsis, there should be a clarity vis-a-vis your research design also. Determining the type of data that is to be used, obviously while building your synopsis you should be able to understand, and what are the different paths that are available and what are going to be your priorities and how you're going to use. That is another thing that you need to work on. Again, coming back to writing a research proposal, now you have to pen down after completing all the steps. It's time to write your research synopsis. Obviously, you need to understand that the various components of research problem or a research proposal have to be included in this thing, and which would include all the background, the problems, the research questions, the ROL, literature review, and each and every other writing aspects. What are the tips for writing a research proposal? So if you're looking at writing a research proposal, what are the tips I provide you or I can give you? Well, obviously, around 1,500 words. It should be maximum. It should be. That's the max limit that we usually look at. A research proposal should carry, and if it is able to showcase a multidisciplinary aspect, and in the current, what I'm talking about is in the current times, maybe after 1 year it is not applicable, but at this moment, multidisciplinary aspects are very important. We know everybody is talking about innovation, everybody is talking about there has to be something built up. But innovation, actually, the whole basis of innovation is a technology intervention. Technology interventions in medicine, technology intervention in tourism, in the hospitality field, in manufacturing, in other aspects of our life, is the one which is actually bringing up innovation. So the fact is, even if you are doing something on hardcore tourism and you bring about that technology aspect, it provides that multidisciplinary aspect. So that's what I'm looking towards, that your proposal should have that multidisciplinary aspect. And if that is there, obviously, if you're looking for a grant, if you're looking for PhD, if you're looking for a major project, it is going to be an acceptable aspect. Always get your research proposal commented on, show it to your peers, your bosses, or your colleagues, that they are able to give you comments and they help you understand that whether this research is feasible or not. This is one of those formats of research proposals which I could lay hands on, and this about somewhere around 4,000 words. This is another one thing. So this was available. I thought I should show this slide to you, and finding a unique title that is always apt, and the background aspect is important. The questions which I've already spoken about, the research methods which I talked about, working plan, and then the bibliography. Obviously, the references are very, very key aspect of these things. So coming back to the components, title, identifying the keywords, providing everything related to that. That this is going to be important. Introduce which actually shows what your research problem is, research problem, and try to identify what it is all about and why it is working on, and what or why. So what are we going to research and why? try to justify the research topic. Focus on justifying why as well as what. If you're not able to focus on these two important things, then what happens is people don't usually get convinced by your work. So just getting stuck with what of your research will also not be important aspect. But you also have to work on why of your product. So what you are studying, and if you keep writing about that in your research proposal, which will actually not justify or will not be sufficient enough to convince other people, especially see what happens is when we are looking for getting research, writing a synopsis for PhD, it's easier. But when you're looking at grants from companies and organization, for example, British Council, or you are applying for Commonwealth Fellowship or Canadian Fellowship or Hungarian Fellowship or Fulbright Fellowship, obviously then what or why become very, very important aspect. And today's research synopsis, when I'm talking about it from research grant perspective also, if you must have seen in my first slide. So it's just not a research synopsis. In PhD, what happens is you have a limited group. You have only your one or two experts and couple of your own peers or colleagues or the university with which you are applying, the professors of that university. But when you apply for grants, it's vetted by a huge cross section of people belonging to various sections of society. Vet that, because you'll be one of the very few who will be given that fellowship. If there you are not focusing on why, that is going to be a big, big issue for you. And technological changes. I have constantly, I told you earlier also that innovation is a very important aspect. Bringing about innovation, talking about innovation in our research is an important aspect which everybody looks at, which everybody talks about, and which everybody wants to be adopted. So the basic factor is that how we include that innovation in our research, and people are not aware of. So what is going on within your field? What are the technological, how the various technological changes can actually impact work in your field? That is going to be very important. And if you are able to justify or showcase that in your synopsis, कि आने वाले समय में मैं इसके ऊपर काम करके इसके बारे में चीजें बाहर निकालूंगा, and I'll be able to report some very crucial findings on the basis of this, you are surely, your foot is in the door vis-a-vis your fellowships are concerned, vis-a-vis your projects for British Council or EU are concerned. So that's an important aspect. So try to work on that and see that your work is adopting all the flaws of earlier researches that have been done and that has been included in your work. So the literature review, obviously, the literature research on that is important. It's always good if you take your literature, or if you read paper, or if you quote literature not more than 5 years older. Yes, if you're giving some definitions in introduction, if you're giving some definitions, or if you're talking about something, obviously it doesn't matter. The year doesn't matter. But when you're specifically writing ROL, or when you're specifically building premises for your hypothesis or your objectives, a literature which is older than 5 years, and if you're quoting and if you're basing everything on that, is usually not acceptable. Because with the technology, what is happening, the one very important issue is that people are very frequently doing their research. The thought process is moving at very fast pace, and this research is also being put in, or uploaded in the virtual space at a very fast pace. So if you're not able to find out something that has been done in a related field in the last 5 years, 99% times the problem will be your searching, the search tools that you're using. The search tools that you're using, or your search processes that you are following. The problem will be there. Only 1% times it would be that this is such a unique thing that which has not been talked about or worked upon. But usually what happens is that the problem would be with your research tools, based upon which you are trying to, not research, but search tools or search engines that you are using to retrieve the information. So Google Scholar is a very, very important one, and is very trustworthy. But obviously there are so many other websites also, and so many other publishers. If you have access to them, they will be able to provide you with latest and updated information and literature on the topic that is being worked. Couple of steps that you are involved in review of literature. Obviously, identification of relevant literature through systematic literature review is very important aspect, but it should be critically read. Now, when we talk about critically read, when I've been constantly when I tell my students to start working or scholars to start working, even students when they work on their assignments, an important aspect that we keep telling them about is that try to read every aspect you are doing or research that you are reading in such a manner that you are critically able to understand or build out the third dimension of that particular writing. What if this is being written, or what was going on in the mind of the author who's writing this research, or what was going on in the mind of the research team which was writing this research. So that is a very important aspect which should be understood. And when you are writing a review of literature, it has to be importantly understood and try to present proper logical arguments when you are building up your own ROL. Well, there are four basic purposes of literature review, and obviously, first one is to show that you are familiar with that research area, and you know what is going on in the current vis-a-vis the current state of literature is concerned. But the very important aspect, the third one, is the revealing the gap, to understand that this is the gap that exists, and this is the gap that you are going to work upon. So the basic purpose of your literature review is this, and to build out that gap and working on that gap analysis, that's going to be a crucial issue, and finding that gap is not an easy task. It's a lot easier said than done. So that's an important aspect. Inform about your research design, because once you read all this literature, once you are putting up that literature review, that will also give you fair bit of an idea that what your research design is going to be, whether you're going to use focus group interviews, whether it's going to be qualitative, whether it's going to be quantitative, what are you going to use, how you're going to work up on that. That's going to be a very important aspect. Another one is then the objectives. I have 11 minutes left. I'll just try to wind it off in such a manner. Okay, so objectives are identified on the basis of the problem analysis that you have. So try to see what is the problem on hand and how you're building it up. But one of the basic focus is that each and every objective is actually going to be achieved while you carry the actual research. So that is a very important aspect. So each and every objective has to be achievable. Sometimes we try to be very ambitious, and we put in such like objectives which actually we are not achieving at the end. But second aspect is don't make generic statements when you are defining your objectives. So generic, for example, we are going to provide strategies for brand building to the destination. Obviously, when you're doing a research, you are going to provide strategies. But what is going to be the locus standi of those strategies? What those strategies are going to actually point out? A lot of researchers write objectives that fourth or fifth objective comes out to be providing suggestions, giving suggestions for brand building or brand image. Obviously, PhD अगर आप कर रहे हो या research कर रहे हो या कुछ भी research को कर रहे हो, obviously there are going to be suggestions coming out of it. So what is the fun of having them as an objective? If no suggestions come out of your research, obviously it's not a right one. So that cannot be your objective. Such a generic statement cannot be your objective. So it has to be pinpointed aspect which you have to look at and which you have to provide when you're working on. Methodology, obviously, a methodology will actually help you arrive at conclusions related to your overall objectives. There are so many data collection methods which are relevant, which are either quantitative or qualitative, but which one is useful for you? That has to be understood and built up. And that is something which you should be aware of. और वो तभी पता चल सकता है that you can only do once you are aware of the importance of each and every one of them. Okay, so that's again going to be a very important aspect that you need to understand, that you need to build up, and you need to see to it that you are in a way building it up in a proper, effective manner. What are the chosen methods that you're going to use? I have already talked many times about this particular aspect. So what are the essentials? What are the essentials vis-a-vis research design is concerned? The philosophy behind your research. Are you taking an empirical research, or are you adopting one of the research designs? What's the philosophy behind it? Qualitative methodology, or qualitative or quantitative, or a mixed method you use. So you do focus group interviews, PLS. So that can also, what is going to be a sampling, sample size, sample data type, in what form the data is going to be collected. Interviews, again, जैसे collection type हमने बता दिया, वो सारा कुछ, and what be the various techniques, analysis techniques that you are going to use. So this is something regarding the research design, and then I'll be moving towards the conclusion of this research, this presentation. So what are the topic goals, rationale, जिसे कहा जाता है research design process. We are explaining the research questions, the theoretical framework, the sequencing of research methods, that determining in which sequence they are going to work, what methods will help you to answer your research questions. That's an important aspect. What theories and empirical studies inform your research, and site and participant selection. So when do you talk to your participants? At which place you talk to them? That is a very important aspect. First is, sometimes what happens is, after the customer has consumed the product or service, or before the customer has consumed the product or service, under both the scenarios, the response of the participant will be different. If the participant has consumed that service, his response would be different. And if he's about to consume that service, his response would be different. So it would be important whether you are to talk to him after both pre and post consumption of the service, or you are going to talk only and you understand and build it up. So it's going to be a very crucial sort of an aspect. So deciding when you are going to talk to him, this is part of the research design process, and you have to be very clear with us. And obviously, how you're going to do the pilot aspects, and how you're going to refine your research work, and how this piloting is going to be done. Having clarity of that is also going to be a very, very important. And validity obviously is an important aspect. What processes will help you to use and ensure that your study is as valid as possible, that it is a positive one. Obviously, this comes to the significance aspect. Originality is very important aspect, but how does your work add to existing knowledge? Explaining that particular aspect vis-a-vis in your research proposal, vis-a-vis the other research that are being done within your research proposal is going to be very important aspect. Outlining various stages that correspond with your research, and whether you're doing a part-time work or a full-time work, that's also one of the very important aspects, which gives a list of references is an important aspect that you need to provide, and cite the citing of various proposals, the references, the bibliography. They sometimes these words are used interchangeably, but sometimes they are not. So that is very important. And the last aspect that I want to talk about is that how you communicate with your audiences to whom you are presenting. And there is no shortcut to it. The only aspect to it is rehearse, rehearse, and rehearse. Connect with your audience. Read again and again your own work, and you'll find out what different issues that are cropping up while you are reading that research, and how those issues need to be handled. But it's important that you rehearse. And if you have good communication skills, and if you have worked on that, you can engage your listeners. There will be certain key points vis-a-vis your research is concerned, which you can refer to as hotspots. Focus on those hotspots. If you're trying to work out something really innovative and technology intervention is there, make that as your hotspot and bring everybody around that. So your problem statement includes that. Bring everybody around that. And if you're going to a unique place and talking to unique set of people, for example, you're going to collect data from the top 100 CEOs of the country, and you have access to them, then you focus on that. That is going to be your USP. When you're talking to your audience, when you're trying to talk to the evaluators, tell them, I have access to top 100 CEOs of my country, and I'm going to get the data from them. They'll be very convinced, okay, top 100 CEOs in the tourism and hospitality industry, okay, this person has access to that, he can get the data, something new is going to come up. So let's give him an opportunity. So that is a very important. So focusing on the hotspot, and that only can be done if you have good presentation skills and if you are well aware of the work that you are doing and that you have done. Some skills that you would need if you want to write your good research synopsis, obviously. Tech savviness. I've been again and again focusing on the technology interventions because all the innovation is based upon that. All the innovation that is being carried out is being based upon that. So tech savviness is very important. If somebody knows how to use Excel properly, he does not need structural equation modeling. He does not need SPSS. SEM की उसको जरूरत नहीं है SPSS अगर उसको Excel पूरा चलाना आता हो. Excel has so many things. So tech savviness is very, very important. Creativity and innovation. Obviously, how creative you are, how creatively, how judicious use of words that you can make, how innovatively you can present. Data literacy is another aspect that we have. In the beginning only, I talked about the fact that there's so much data available in this virtual space, but how do we process that data? How do we work upon that data? That is very important. That for that you need the critical thinking aspect. So critical thinking, again, once you read more and more, you participate in discussions, you interact with people, you listen to lectures. Obviously, your mind opens up. You get a very wider horizon, and the critical thinking aspect builds up. Digital marketing and business skills. जैसे मैंने पहले भी कहा, अभी फिर कह रहा हूँ. Because I might be biased over here because I come from a marketing field, so I might be biased, but this is what I feel. If I have good marketing skills, I can sell my product, and research synopsis is also a product that you're working on. So your business skills and your digital marketing skills are very important. And leadership, obviously, leadership is that how you want to lead your team. If you're applying for a fellowship or if you're looking at that, you would need a lot of people and you can communicate with them and committing to a lifetime of learning. It's not that if you are writing a research synopsis, you would say that, okay, I have enough of information with me, I have enough of knowledge with me, and I don't need to learn anymore. That's being very, very naive of you. And it's unfortunate if somebody thinks on those lines, you always need to understand. These are 5 mantras which I always give every researcher or every marketer. And they are actually 5 vowels: A, E, I, O, U. The first word stands for adaptability, efficiency. E stands for efficiency. I stands for inclusivity. O stands for opportunity, and U stands for universalism. And if I talk about universalism, the research which is actually applicable globally, because world is one big market and one big family or global. Because whatever happens in Jammu and Kashmir is visible to somebody in France. Whatever happens in Delhi is visible to somebody in Paris. So, and your work has to be adaptable under various circumstances and various situations. I gave you one of the examples where I was talking about this COVID aspect, pandemic, and how we are trying to refine our research in such a way that we are able to build up adaptable aspects. That's going to be an important aspect. And your efficiency. So how we're able to build up. There are so many opportunities existent around us. Only if you keep your eyes and ears open, you are able to understand and able to build upon them. And the inclusivity aspect. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Great. Thank you so much, sir. I guess that was almost like a panoramic view of the whole research process that you have given. Time is an important part of application process, and this is the question you want to answer through your research. It also demonstrates the knowledge of the subject and presentation. A lot of attendees are asking for the presentation. So you can just share the presentation.
I'll provide that. I'll provide that.
Thank you so much.
I was just trying to finish it off before my lecture. I was working on it in the university, so that's why I couldn't work it out. But I'll provide.
But a very elaborative one, and since we have research as a subject, as a separate subject in bachelor's and postgraduate programs, a presentation like this would be a great ready